goes into the night with Rick Ballou. Nole'n Stample. What a great football name.
I appreciate it, man.
It's a defensive name. Could have been an offensive guy. You know, with a Nole'n Stample, you got to play defense.
Yeah, that's a defensive name. I agree, man.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
All you big guys are losing weight. I was with Greg Huntington today, one of the 10 original Jaguars. He's down to about 260. What was your high as a player? How big did you get?
I want to say 330, 325 was probably my high.
And what are you now?
Like 270, 265.
Calories? I mean, do you eat as much? Just eat leaner food now, more vegetables? How about the whole intake food-wise?
I think the intake is definitely a lot lower, but I will say just the cardio, and that's one thing after I got out I did not want to do just because I was just running. Obviously, you're working out all the time when you're an actual professional athlete. But so after that, I was like, I'm done. But then it crept up on me. So it was time to start working out.
I'm glad you've lost weight and others have lost weight because there's nothing that bothers me more when I see someone who goes long before it's time. And a lot of these former players haven't been able to get their weight down. But, I've seen Tony Vaselli recently way down. I just mentioned Huntington. Another former Jaguar here in town, Don Davey, looks like he weighs about 200 pounds as a former defensive lineman. So it's great if you're able to do that. I know it's conditioning the brain to eat less and whatever. It's got to be difficult, though.
Yeah, no, it absolutely can be. And it's just when you set your mind to it, it's just like you got to just get after it, man. That's it.
Yeah. You and I have had a lot of conversations about leadership when it comes to both of our alma maters at Florida State and how the game has changed. And now we're seeing transfers come in, immediately be asked to be leaders, and that has included quarterbacks for a lot of different programs. Now it's DJ Uiagalelei who's going to take over this year as the starter. What were your thoughts on what he penned yesterday about saying no to going to Charlotte to represent Florida State at the Atlantic Coast Conference football meetings, instead sending a more deserving player who was part of last year's championship?
I think it was a unbelievable opportunity to show who DJ is as a person. We've been hearing it from everyone and being able to see it. It's something that I think was a great opportunity for him to take advantage of. And when you see DJ in person and you see him interact with his teammates, that is who he is. So there's a few reasons why I think that this was a phenomenal opportunity. One, he was able to kind of show the world I am the teammate and I am the person that everyone calls me. Mm-hmm. And then second, you're able to then show, okay, well, now you have a actual player that was in the ACC championship last year that showed everything that they had, gave everything that they had, and can now represent to the ACC, hey, listen, I'm still here. I'm still not happy. And then last but not least, DJ was able to really display that the quarterback is not the biggest piece of the pie. It is not the most important. We can always do things without the quarterback, and the quarterback is a piece of the puzzle and not the puzzle itself.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense, and that's a great point that you made, because when we get with these athletes, when they roll through, the two most prominent questions that are going to be asked basically don't apply to DJ Uiagalelei. Number one, it's going to be, you are undefeated and you can get to play in the college football playoff, and how do you respond after having everyone sitting out and you lost 63-3 to Georgia?
Yes, exactly. So some of those questions, which you're going to have a lot of media guys and a lot of those news analysts that are going to be upset that he's not there. But at the same time, like you said, there's going to be a ton of questions that he will not be able to answer and not be able to show that expression and show that emotion. And I think that he genuinely made the right choice.
A lot to be excited about when Florida State kicks off their camp coming up in just a couple of weeks. And again, they'll be here in Jacksonville at UNF on August 7th and 8th. Is there a position battle that fires up Nole'n Stample?
There's a few of them. I'm excited to watch on every part of the field. I'm excited to watch even the quarterback battle. I think obviously it seems like we're going to be going with DJ, but I think as long as we have Brock in the midst, as well as our new arrival that I'm super excited about as well. As long as they're really pushing, we're going to get the best player on the field, and that's super important. But my number one right now would probably be Conrad Hussey, seeing if he can take that spot and be able to be that starter. I know obviously we have Devontae Brown that came from Miami, and he's a great player, and I think that he is going to add a huge element. So we'll see who can get it, but I think that position battle is going to be one to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Very interesting. I mean, it feels like most of these positions are pretty much set. Running back could be interesting, as well with Toafili returning. But I've finally been able to watch a little bit of tape on Roydell Williams coming over from Alabama, and Singleton is there, Holmes is there, the Penn State transfer. Then you see this small Jalen Lucas, and I know we've had conversations about him before, but probably the fastest guy on this Florida State football team.
Yes, and where we have a few really good key guys at wide receiver, we're not 100% stacked there. So I think with having the Jalen Lucases and the Toafilis and the Roydells, all these running backs have something similar, and they all can catch out of the backfield. So us being able to have them and be able to really push down the field, I think it opens up our pass game a lot, where we do have some questions at that wide receiver spot. So I think with us being able to look at how stacked we are in that running back room, we may see a couple running backs start to kind of flare out and be some slots and stuff like that throughout the season.
Now, Lawrence Stample, our guest, business owner right here in town. You've also spent time in Tallahassee, and you visited with Mike Norvell. You've watched him conduct some off-season practices. And when you look at talent lost or production lost, so much off this offense, so much off this defense. What's Mike Norvell's role now after being as successful as they have been the last 2 years, but to really lose prominent football players? And hopefully Florida State's in a situation now where they're finally reloading, not rebuilding. But it's a big year for Mike Norvell.
It's a huge year for Mike Norvell, and I think he's going to do a phenomenal job because I think he has the foundation of a phenomenal coach, and he's built culture, and that's what's going to carry you. But I think there's a few reasons on why I think it's such a big year for him. Is not only are you coming off of one of the best seasons that you probably can come off. You came off undefeated. So there's really a lot of expectation there, but then you also had majority of your starters leave. Not only that, in this new day and age, we have a bunch of transfers, so it's not a lot of guys that was in the midst, but you have new players that are coming on, and you have to really answer the bell. You have to be able to show that you can do it on a consistent basis with whoever you have. So it's not foundational. It's not coming up. It's not an underdog story. It is showing that regardless of who you have on that field, because of how well of a coach that you've done and the coaching that you've done, you can still win nonetheless.
Going back to our conversations that we had in January and possibly even into around, I was going to say signing period in February, but we know that those days are gone and everything now basically happens in December. But for me, a big part of this with Mike Norvell was getting rid of being left off as a playoff and getting rid of 63-3, which could have been just a huge hangover. Here it is mid-July. From the outside, clearly where I am, it feels like that's gone right now from this football team.
No, it's completely gone. And I think that you can't forget it too much, but you have to be able to move on with it. But I think where you have the DJ Uiagalelei and him being able to realize that he needs to send or he needs to relinquish that spot in order to be able to show the team how much of a player he is, I think that is a great sign. We're talking about really good signs in Tallahassee that the culture is being built, and you have to be able to pull that fire out of these players. And a lot of the players weren't there. A lot of players aren't going to be there for this season that was there last season. So you're not going to have a ton of hatred, but Norvell's going to have to pull it out of them.
Yeah, I don't want to compare DJ Uiagalelei to Bo Nix, but Bo Nix at Auburn made a lot of mistakes and really disappointed. And then he went off to Oregon, and when it was all said and done, there's never been a quarterback in the history of college football who had more starts than Bo Nix. And we know he is now a first-round draft pick in Denver. I had a guest on the other night who made an unbelievable point, Niall. DJ Uiagalelei has 40 career starts in college football. All of the naysayers, all of the negativity you're going to know. The light's either going to go on and he can play, or he's going to remain, maybe a little bit under the radar and not live up to the expectations that was, anointed to him when he went to Clemson 5 years ago.
Yeah, so you have to, especially in this new era where you're moving from school to school and you're trying to figure out the best opportunity, I think that the organization has so much to do with cultivating great players. You have Florida State that is almost at the best opportunity and the best time. We could have a couple more weapons for him, but I think the culture and the things that are around him, I think that he could have done well at Clemson. He could have done better at Clemson, but the culture, what is being built around him is going to play such a big factor. And I think that he picked such a great university. He understands why he picked that. And I think Norvell has him. He saw what we were able to do with Travis. He saw the progression with Travis. I think that there's such a similar style playing type that I think this year is such a great opportunity for him to seize the opportunity based on the people that are around him.
All right, in your career at Florida State, whether it was when you were real young and not playing as much, or up until your final couple of seasons where you were performing all the time, what was the most difficult place for you to go on the road and play in?
So if I had to answer a question like that, it would have to be, let's say, it would have to be probably Death Valley.
Okay.
Just because a few reasons. One, their fans are real rowdy and they like to get after it. And the stadium itself, the way the stadiums are created it's so important to the dynamic of when you're on the field. So whereas the Swamp, the stadium is very spread out, it's very far back. You're not feeling like you're being submerged or you're covered. When you're in Death Valley, you feel like you are absolutely covered in orange. It's just like a sea of orange. But I will have to say, as a defensive player, there's really no tough place. When we go in, we put our nose down, we get our nose dirty, period. There is no real crowd noise because they're quiet for the offense, especially when we're away. They're quiet for the offense. And when we're at home, when it is as loud as it possibly can be, we're pretty much levitating off the ground getting after it. So there's really no hard place to play. When during practice, we'll have that crowd noise and everything for the offense. But when we typically go away, it's quiet. And when we do hear it quiet, we know that we're making plays in the backfield.
Wow. Death Valley, my first time there was in '88. That was the Deion Sanders punt return and also the fumble Rooski by Jacksonville's Leroy Butler. And that was in just a ton of rain. And that's when Florida State was on the rise. And they had a decent showing, but it was tougher to get tickets then for Florida State fans. When they joined the Atlantic Coast Conference, I also went to their first ever game there in 1992, where they benched Charlie Ward, went to Danny Cannell, then turned around and sat down Cannell, and Ward pulled it out late in the fourth quarter, hitting Kevin Knox and among others for the win. But you could tell just 4 years later how that Florida State fan base had grown and how there were that many more people in the seats in that really small amount of time. So that is a nasty place to play. You never got a chance to go to Notre Dame.
No, I did not.
That's where they go this November.
Yeah,
that's going to be pretty difficult.
That's going to be a real fun game to watch.
Yeah, but that's interesting. With all the people I've talked to, I've never really thought about it that way. I mean, you always hear about how tough it is to go play in these environments. The only reason why I asked you is EA Sports ranked the top 25. They have Florida State in here at 9. They had Texas A&M as 1. All right, and let's see, they had Clemson here at 12. So, it's a very subjective list, but I've never really thought about it that way. It's a difficult place to play with the crowd. Is for your offense. Yeah. It's not for you guys on defense.
Exactly. Defense is easy to play. We're in there. We're getting after it, and the quieter it is, the better we play. And they want it quiet in there for their offense. Yeah. So it's pretty consistent when we go off.
All right, now Lawrence Stample, former national champion for Florida State and played for the Cleveland Browns, also a business owner here now with NLS Cleaning. What's going on? What's the latest?
Nothing much, man. We're still getting after it. This rain has been real interesting, but it's you get lucky when you can predict it and you can know that you can get after it in the morning. So we're still doing a ton of washing, a ton of commercial stuff, a ton of residential, keeping our homeowners and our resident owners and everyone here in Jax cleaned up and making sure that their houses are nice. So follow us on Instagram at NLS Cleaning, as well as follow me on Instagram at Nole'n with Niall. It is our passion to make sure everybody's house here is in tip-top shape for a great price. We really try to make sure our pricing is reasonable and is affordable for our homeowners, and that you guys are getting a great value.
Yeah, looking forward to watching practice with you when the Noles come up here in just a couple of weeks. Do you have plans to make it back over to God's country before then?
Yes, absolutely. I'll be going back over there. I want to talk with a few guys. There's a few guys that I'm talking with in terms of just trying to see how they can break out, because there's a difference between being a player and just kind of getting reps and then being that guy, being that starter, being that reliant guy. So I'm trying to work with a few players there. So I'll be there, as well as I'll be taking my boys out to the practices here in Jax. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to a great football season.
Once again, tell our listeners the best way to get a hold of you.
Yeah, they can give us a call at 904-708-8802. Give us a call. You can reach out. You can reach out to us on our website at nlscleaning.net. We would love to help you with anything you need.
Niall Lawrence Stample. Always appreciate him dropping by. Always good to see you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Rick.
There he goes. Niall Lawrence Stample. Any reaction to that? Get us right now on the text line. That number for you is 641-1010, and it's brought to you by Lifetime Enclosures.